Hello, welcome to Constituent Marking with Fred Long on Proof Text. And I'm Fred Long, and we're looking at 1 Thessalonians, and we're in verse 6. And this is a great verse. Of course, all these are really great verses, but what I really like about verse 6, we'll see, is that it deals with the idea of imitation. Imitate, follow the example of. And this is such an important part of the Christian faith, and really God and God working with his people, is that he wants them to imitate himself. He's given Jesus to us as our example. And so we see here early on a very early example of Paul appealing to this idea of mimesis and imitation. So let's look at verse 6 here, chapter 1, and let me read it and we'll mark it up and talk about it. So, and ke umis mimete imon Eyenethete ke tu kuriu dexamenu ton logon en thlipsi pole meta karas pneumatos ahiu. All right, so I'm going to start by looking at connectors. Okay, ke, and. Now this, I think, is indeed the first connector, initial conjunction in the text. So if you look back at the previous verses, you have not had an initial coordinating connector yet. You had Paul in 1:1, the addressee, the senders to addressees. Then in verse 2, we simply had, we gave thanks. And then the next three verses and parts of verses had participles and then an OT clause, which was providing substantiation in verse 5. So this is the first independent initial conjunction. And it's simply adding something, adding to what was just done, and what was just said was you saw what sort of people we were among you. And so that's what he's adding, so this is just adding continuative to that theme. And umis, you, imitators of us, became. So that's how I'd mark up that first verse. The umis is single underline. Mimete is a noun. It's a predicate nominative with a genitive modifier, amon. So I draw a line back from amon to mimete. And then you have the main verb, eyenethete, aorist, middle, formed, indicative, second plural. You became, actually it's, I should say it's aorist, passive, middle formed, yenethete. So let me move that over, that cutoff, but to put it on this side, so the theta, second plural. You became imitators of us and of the Lord. Now, these genitives are probably what would be called objective genitives. So you have what's called discontinuous constituents, where the genitive modifiers, which I'll put in pink highlight here, you can see that they are on opposite sides of the verb. So the verb is splitting that up. So each of these, amon and tu kuriu, is both of them are modifying the mimete, but they're discontinuous and they're being broken up by this verb, probably for some effect. So the question is what is that effect? Is Lord being stressed, or is our being stressed? Well, I think that Lord is probably being stressed, because this is the one that is probably the most important person to be imitating, is the Lord, and it's in a final sentence position. Okay, so, and you became imitators of us and of the Lord. Maybe is how I would say it and stress it. And then we're going to get a participle, dexamenu. So this is a postposition participle. It's post-nuclear. So the nuclear verb is yenethete in yellow there. So this is developing that. So I start a bracket in front of dexamenou and double underline the word. And then I see, so tone logon, receiving, having received the word. And then I have prepositional phrases, en thlipsi pole, in much affliction. And then I see another prepositional phrase, metakaras, with joy of the Holy Spirit, pneummatos hagiou. So pneummatos hagiou, I draw a line from that into karas. So you can see the meta. So I'll put these prepositions in blue. You can see that. And so in much affliction with the joy of the Holy Spirit. And this joy seems like the Holy Spirit is the producer of this joy. So this would be maybe a genitive of production, of producer, that comes from, or origins, genitive of origin. But yeah, this, and there's something kind of oxymoronic about this in a sense, right? Because you have this terrible situation of affliction, and yet you have this joy. And that's kind of the nature of life, right? Following God in the gospel is you have these kind of contrasts of circumstances versus experiences, and the experience that the Holy Spirit and God can produce in us. So, this post-positioned participle clause, which, let me see, I'll put it in gray. This is all explaining the circumstances of them becoming imitators even of the Lord, having received the word in much affliction with the joy of the Holy Spirit. All right. Well, that's how I'd mark up 1 Thessalonians 1:6. I hope you found that helpful and look forward to having you watch and listen next time. Take care.